Howdy, y'all. So I wanted to talk about Caligo. This is a single player experience. It's a walking simulator. If you're not into walking simulators, you're not gonna be into this game. This is actually a lower bare bones version of what a walking simulator is in terms of you just walking, pressing one button to interact with stuff. You're only interacting with a sheet of paper and that's it. Most of the game is played with like narrative dialogue as you're moving, and sometimes it'll pause you and you have to stand there and listen to dialogue happen. Now, I played a lot of walking simulator games and I actually enjoy them quite a bit as a person who likes story games. Again, I know they're not for everybody, but you know, I played some like Gone Home, Everybody's Gone to Rapture, and what I enjoy about those games is they have like an interesting story. And you have other games like, you know, What Remains of Edith Finch and things of that sort will take you to another place sometimes and vary up the gameplay. I like the idea of there being like one sandbox world, like and then Everybody's Gone to Rapture, where it's like a big giant sandbox area and you can kind of explore it how you want to, and then you learn the story as you go from different means. And what I like about these walking simulator games too is a lot of times they'll have commentary and you can replay with commentary and listen to more of like the story and how they came up with it. So I really like those experiences. Now, having said that though, this is probably, to be honest, the worst walking simulator game that I've ever played. It was the first one that I didn't really enjoy playing that much at all. And even though it's more bare bones down, like Dear Esther of sorts is the one I can think of that's like pretty much, you know, you don't really interact with stuff all that much at all and you just walk. But even in the atmosphere of that and the story was trying to tell was still like somewhat interesting. So it's weird to have this game where there is kind of a lot happening, but it's just not executed well. I played it on the PS5. The game takes place in this world where you're the character who has died, and then you meet like another version of yourself that was used to help create the world, and it's kind of, that's in the beginning. I'm not like spoiling a huge amount of stuff. That's like kind of how the game starts, but it's a whole multiverse story is the idea, and that the character you're playing, you know, they live a life and then they die and then they collect all these moments from their life and then they share it with this other version of themselves, and together then they build a new world and something different based on what they've learned from the previous world. And it's kind of like a never-ending cycle loop. And so that's what you're doing, is that you're playing this character who has died, and then you're going through these experiences, but the experiences you're going through is how the character saw them in the moment versus what the reality of it was. So you go to these different zones, like one's like a forest, one's like a ship, and there's pieces of paper that you pick up as you go, and those are like the memories that you collect to help rebuild. The story of your character, though, the thing is that you don't really get much of a story of what the character's life was like before they died. The only story beats you get from that are from these pieces of paper. When you collect them, they're basically sketch drawings. And so you look at the sketch drawings, and that's kind of what tells you the story a little bit, but it doesn't give you a whole lot there, and there's a chance you might miss a sketch drawing or so. It doesn't seem like there's really a punishment either way. As I was playing it, I didn't know what the point of collecting the sketches, you know, what the point was, other than like them telling me why I'm doing it. But after collecting all these sketches, it didn't do anything by the time the end game hit. Like, I didn't get any bonus or reward. I didn't get any notification of like if I collected them all or not. I had no idea by the end of it. And the game, again, I was playing this on PS5, so it could be just a version I have. I know it's on Switch, and I think it's on maybe PC too. It might run better, but it was one of those where as I was walking pretty much the entire time, the game was like popping frames in front of me, like almost the whole time. Like I would just be walking and then a few trees in front of me would pop up, or some rocks and stuff like that. And it was almost that consistently throughout the entire game. You know, I played games before where it would happen, you know, occasionally here or there, and you're like, oh, it's a smaller game or whatnot, but it was consistently happening. It felt like the game needed more time to be like smoothed out overall. It felt like it was like a little bit like rushed after a certain point. And there is voiceover dialogue from the main character and this other character that you see, and then there's another character that shows up that talks to you through the experience. And first off, the subtitling's weird, because you can play it with subtitles. Like I play a lot of stuff subtitled, but the subtitles are placed weird in the frame. So, you know, you have the subtitle dialogue in the middle of the frame, and then like if it's like a one word or something, that's still like in the middle of the frame. But what's weird is that if the dialogue is like shortened or one word, instead of it being in the middle of the frame, it gets shifted to the left. So it's like they didn't properly format it so the dialogue is written out consistently. So some of the dialogue will be like shift over to left a bit if it's like shorter than like a full sentence and things like that. And that was like kind of distracting. And it also felt like, oh, okay, like they didn't really have time to like fix that, or thought that was okay. And that kind of threw me off. And honestly, like the voiceover in it wasn't the best either. I felt like the voice acting in it was not that good. There was only one character kind of towards the beginning that you meet initially where I liked the way they did that character's voice quite a bit. I thought that was cool, but then the main character's voice just wasn't that good, and hearing it the whole time, even the 1 hour, it just kind of was just like, I'm kind of tired of hearing this person's voice. And then as you like meet the other characters or hear them, like their voices were like all right, but the dialogue they were given was really weird. Again, it just felt like the game wasn't written super well either. Yeah, and you know, eventually you go through the game and at the end you get a choice. And the choice will get you like 2 different endings. Now the good thing I'll say about the game is it does give you the chance to immediately go back at, like, once you finish it the one time with the one ending, you can immediately go back after you beat the game and go right to before that decision is made, so you don't have to play through the whole game over again. I thought that was a nice touch. It seemed to have like decent checkpoints between like each level. So that was another positive I would say about it, besides the fact it was a shorter experience. But even then, when I went to do both options, it literally like was basically almost the same ending, except the coloring was different. It was really weird. And then I was very confused by it. I wasn't sure what it meant. Like, I got kind of the point of what the story was trying to say, but it just wasn't executed that well. And so it just came off just very like kind of haphazard and mushy and all over the place. And it just felt like, oh, I see the concept of what was there and what this could have been if done like as properly as it could have. It could have been something like really interesting, but because it was just not well made kind of all around, it just was just like, I was waiting for it to be over, and it ended, especially the beginning too as well. You'll see like there's a certain thing at the beginning of the game that very reminiscent of the opening of a very famous video game. I don't want to say what it is, but at the beginning I was like, did they like take the assets, the exact same assets, and used it? It felt like they did. I'm pretty sure they might have, but I don't know. I don't know for sure. But yeah, so again, as a person that loves walking sims, I think this is like the worst one I played. I don't think it's fully put together. I don't know if they just ran out of time on it or not, but it's just not polished anywhere. The voiceover isn't great. The story's kind of whatever. And even though it's a short experience, you know, sometimes I'll give it leeway, be like, oh, well, sure, it's worth checking out, even though it's, you know, a little wonky. But this one, I was like, you can skip it, honestly. I wouldn't take the time to even check this one out, even though it's short, which is really unfortunate. It's really unfortunate, because I really wanted to, like this. It's just unfortunate because I wanted to really like this game. You know, it has elements of a lot of things I enjoy out of a game of this type, but yeah, it just was not well made and it's not good. So skip this one, y'all. There's better walking simulators out there you can check out on your own time. So yeah, y'all, don't take the time to check this out. I don't think it's really worth the time, even the hour or so. You can skip this one. There's a lot better walking simulators out there.